Welcome back, everybody, to Two Spot Monkeys Live. I'm Jim, joined as always by Tom. It is episode 121. Tom, how you doing?
Jim, I'm okay. It is on the eve of fall.
Yeah.
Today is the last day of summer. So summer vacation, whether you are on it or not, truly becomes to an end.
Yeah, and we had our last round, well, I don't know if it was the last round of maybe summer or early fall, whatever you want to call it, storms last night. Crazy rain and wind, and um, there were tornadoes in the area. None of them touched down from the sounds of it. Hail. We didn't get hail damage here, thankfully. But yeah, so I drove home in sideways falling rain at one point last night. So it was fun, but that's this time of year in Nebraska though. If you get like good rain, you usually don't like what comes with it. Um, so yeah, fall is here. Football's here. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. So fair warning. Our wrestling podcast will turn into a football podcast towards the end for a short while. We both have things to say. But first, we want to get into, and sorry about, we had hoped to record last week. Some things came up that just kind of last minute caused us to be unable to. So we're back this week. Schedule ahead. Next week, we're going to not be able to record, but hopefully in 2 weeks. I guess we didn't talk that far ahead, Tom. So just stay tuned. We're going to get into a rhythm here at some point. We know it's a crazy time of year. So stay tuned. We do it as often as we can. We wish we could be with you. Probably we wish we could do this multiple times a week, but yeah, that's not even close to in our cards of our lives. So thank you for listening whenever you do. But yesterday, Tom, you looked like you were going to say something.
No, it was making me think back to again when we were in the pandemic in full bore and lockdowns and just I don't wish for a pandemic ever, but we just had so much more time, it seemed like, and now life, family, work, you name it, it's just nonstop.
Yeah. Well, and with both of us at that point working from home, we didn't have we kind of had a rough like Friday morning, I think we tried for, but we also had a lot more flexibility throughout the week to be able like, hey, I can carve out an hour here on an afternoon or something like that. And I don't work from home anymore. And jobs have gotten back to, you travel more now. You travel again the way you used to pre-pandemic. My job's vastly different. So yeah. But hey, we love being here. Enough talking about our lives. Let's talk some wrestling. Yesterday was Black Thursday, I guess, again in WWE. One of those days where the releases just come all day long. And it wasn't, I would say for the most part, maybe for all of it, it's a lot of folks that haven't been getting used much. With one slight exception, we'll talk about that here in a minute. But I'll just run down the names that I had posted on our friend group. I know there have been a few other NXT releases of like people that were on NXT Level Up or never even on TV overnight. I saw this morning Brooklyn Barlow and one or two other names that I didn't recognize. But the ones that I've got, Mustafa Ali, Emma, Rick Boogs, Aaliyah, Elias / Ezekiel, or Elias and Ezekiel both released. I don't know, maybe. Riddick Moss, Top Dollar. Interesting that only Top Dollar released, and not Ashante Adonis. Shelton Benjamin, Dolph Ziggler, Dana Brooke, Quincy Miller, or he was known as Quincy Elliott, I believe, in NXT and that. Bryson Montana, Mace Mansoor, or Mace and Mansoir, Shanky Dabakato, and Yulia Leone. I can't say that name very well.
Ulisa.
See, I thought that Yulia didn't look right when I saw it on whatever site I saw it on. Ulisa Leone, yes. Maybe that was her real name, Yulia, or something like that. Ulisa Leone. And again, she was teaming with Valentina Feroz for a little while there. Am I remembering that correctly?
I believe you're correct.
Okay, so interesting again that only half of the team gets released. When I saw Top Dollar was released, I was expecting the next one to be Ashanti and the next one to be D-Fab. But at this point anyways, only Top Dollar from Hit Row. Tom, thoughts, interesting names there in any way?
Yeah, so I think the two that stand out for me personally are Dolph Ziggler and Shelton Benjamin. Clearly, like veterans and guys that have been Dolph more so than Shelton, because Shelton's had some comes and some goes. You would have thought, as opposed to doing this and cutting them off at wherever they are, that like have offering them a coaching opportunity in NXT if you weren't going to have them be part of your main roster would have seemed like a thing. And again, maybe that happened behind the scenes. We just don't know. And then the answer was
Maybe
no. And so yeah,
maybe
so now
release him a talent agreement and then sign him to an employee or something. Yeah,
for sure. So yeah, just out of those two, they were the surprises. Again, not that they were being utilized in any specific way. Dolph Ziggler, when you look at his WWE career, I feel like it's like almost 17, 15, somewhere in that ballpark of years. I feel like because he goes back to like 06 with Spirit Squad, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 05. So just the fact that you have nearly almost a 20-year career, I'm adding a couple of years there, and
2004.
Okay, so nearly a 20-year career in 2023, and
Well,
again, a former world champion.
On 2005, excuse me. He signed with 2004, debuted on television in 2005. So still
Sure. Yeah, no, but you look at unlike well, I'll use Great Khali just because it's the first thing that comes to mind. So Great Khali was a world champion, right? But Great Khali was clearly a novelty act in the scheme of WWE. Dolph Ziggler was not. So yeah, that's just where I'm at with that.
I read something online yesterday, and it kind of made sense to me that Dolph will now end up probably, and I think the person was right. It was like on Twitter or something, or X or whatever. So it was not a Mike Johnson or Sean Ross Sapp or anybody like that. But somebody made the comment that Dolph Ziggler will probably now end up in the John Morrison type role, where he's going to do a little bit of everything here and there. He's not going to be. He'll probably do something in AEW, but do I see him being a featured part of AEW? No. Could he come in and have some good matches? Absolutely. Could he do some MLW stuff? Sure. I have to think Brett Lauderdale would love to get him on a GCW show, in 90 days or so. Shelton Benjamin, same thing. Even more so, I could see Shelton being a coach just because of his. Well, Dolph Ziggler has a amateur background actually as well, so either of them I could see doing that. The other one that was a little surprising in one way, but not in another way, is Mustafa Ali. Mustafa Ali has wanted out of WWE for over a year, and now I don't know if he's continued to want out. But he's been on NXT, been featured on NXT over the last number of months, and in fact is currently scheduled to challenge for the North American title at No Mercy next week, which sure seems like it's not happening anymore. And they didn't bother, and I realized that on Tuesday maybe they didn't know he was getting released on Thursday, but they didn't do anything, I don't think, on TV this week from what I've read to change that matchup. Now, I know they have Monday on Raw in Toronto, I think. Dominic is defending the North American title against Dragon Lee, so they could certainly do something on Monday to create a reason for Dragon Lee to have a rematch at the pay-per-view or the premium live event on Saturday, which kind of makes me think that's probably what they'll do now because they've got this thing already. Like, you could do that, but you still got to explain, or maybe you don't, but you should, why Mustafa Ali is not going to be in that match anymore, and now he doesn't work there, so you're going to have him jumped. I suppose you could have somebody laying on the ground in the parking lot with like long dark hair and you never see his face, but please don't do that. That's lame. Don't do it. I just made the suggestion. Vince, if you're listening, don't do it. But that one was a little surprising just because they had a match, like you couldn't have waited till Monday to release him. You couldn't have let him get through the match you've already booked. That one was a little weird. Riddick Moss and Emma are engaged or married, one of the two. So, well, at least they get to choose what they want to do together now if they want, I guess. The other ones, yeah, none of them really. Dana Brooke quietly has been around for a long, long time, and had gotten better, but she was never going to be a featured performer. So sad day for them all. They all lost, and they've got 90-day non-competes. They get paid for 9 days. I understand that, but I will never dance on the graves of somebody who loses their job. That's not cool. And even if some of those folks aren't people that even familiar with very much at all, as much as I watch wrestling, and some of them aren't people that I'm bummed, to see go because they weren't anybody I was invested in. They're still human beings and they lost their job, and that sucks for them. And I thought it was cool, both, and a lot of other people have said it, I'm sure, but I happened to see tweets from both Steph DeLander and Cardona, Matt Cardona, who obviously are a package deal on the indies at this point. And they both said, this can either be the end of your career or this can be the start of something totally different. And the money and the opportunities are out there. And both of them have absolutely taken that bull by the horn and done really well for themselves, it seems, after losing their jobs. So I thought those are good people to look to. If some of these folks will decide wrestling isn't for them anymore and they'll go do other things. But if they want to, there are people they can look to, like Cardona and DeLander, to see what could be. So doesn't have to be the end, but here we are. So we'll see if any more come. I read this morning, I think it was Sean Ross Sapp said he doesn't expect any more unless it's people who just haven't made it public or they hadn't heard about yet from yesterday. But he doesn't expect another round today. So hopefully that's the case. I know, Tom, and I'm sorry, I know you were really looking for the big Shanky push, but it looks like we're not going to get that now. He did work the India show recently, which, he's from India, so that makes some sense. That's the last thing that guy's done in months. Anything else on WWE releases or just WWE in general, Tom?
No, I've been really hit or miss with watching WWE as of late. So I'm really going to try today to get through NXT. That sounds like it's laborious. It's not. It's just like I'm not setting time aside to like I don't tune in every Tuesday nights at 8:00 and watch NXT. So it's always on demand. It's always on the DVR. Usually it's on in the background while I'm doing something else, unless something really draws my attention. Again, like I do agree with you. I think some of it's been really good from what I've read.
Yep.
Just don't have the.
And they, a couple of weeks ago when Becky Lynch won the title, they got over 1 million viewers on USA during that match. Just to throw the number around, Grand Slam this week from AEW got to, I think it was 984,000. So, they're right in that ballpark. Now, at least for that match, I would have to go back and look at numbers and see what they're normally doing. But NXT has been doing well lately. Maybe one other really quick WWE note, and this is something we'll talk about in the future. WWE and NBC Universal announced, I believe yesterday, that SmackDown is moving back to USA in 2024. Interesting, and I think pointed in that announcement was it only talked about SmackDown, and they're going to do 4, I believe, primetime specials on NBC directly, which is pretty cool to get back on NBC for those. I don't know if they'll be Saturday night's main events or there'll be some other night. But not mentioned in that NBC Universal press release was Raw or NXT. So it sounds like, from everything I read last night, Raw and NXT will be moving, which Raw moving off of USA again. That's been the home of Raw with they did go to Spike for a little while. That's kind of big to see where it lands. So interesting times as these deals come out over the next little bit. Well, Tom, you have seen, we're going to move to AEW. You've seen Grand Slam. I've seen about a third-ish of it. But I think most of the major points, and maybe you'll say something I don't know, but I think I know most of the major points of the show. And I know you've got some strong opinions. I don't know, strong opinions, is that a good word? About Grand Slam and AEW in general, maybe the booking, I don't know. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, no, so I was super excited for Grand Slam coming into Grand Slam. And then I watched 90% of it on Wednesday night, and it just didn't seem like it had the energy I hoped it would. And maybe that was me. Maybe you saw it and you felt differently. I liked the opener Claudio and Eddie Kingston had a lot of backstory, had a lot of emotion to it, had good crowd energy. I don't want to say that I think the show peaked there, but it kind of maybe peaked there for me personally. Again, the matches, all 5 of them that were booked and that happened were really strong on paper. I feel like, when you think about 2 years ago when Grand Slam had the first opportunity to be a thing, and you had Danielson and Omega, and then even last year, the shine is off the coin, or the bloom is off the rose, and I think that's actually being felt by AEW across the board in small ways. I think they aren't being consistent, or aren't getting consistent crowds week to week. And I know I've read a lot, and I've not done any research on this, but that crowds are down and tickets aren't selling for AEW now the way they had been previously. I'm going to Collision tomorrow night. It's in my backyard. I'm super excited. I actually bought tickets back in, I think, June or July or whenever it was, on a pre-sale. And I think I've got really good seats. I think I'm going to actually be able to be right across from the hard cam, unless the setup has changed or will change, going with a friend of the show, Glenn. So really excited about that. And the card is looking great. I know they're going to tape Ring of Honor. I have no idea what that's going to look like, but that'll be cool. If Eddie Kingston's there, even better. I love Eddie Kingston.
And here's the thing. I don't know if he will be. He should be. He should be.
Yes. Yeah. So, but just going back to, and before I go back to Grand Slam, I will say, I was a little nervous when the realization hit me, going, oh shoot, my show is days after Grand Slam. Will Tony Khan and AEW seek to make that Collision a destination and a big deal on the heels of what is already a big deal? I think Excalibur says on commentary on a Wednesday night, the biggest Dynamite of the year, AEW Grand Slam. I mean, it's not false probably, but when you have winter is coming and you have other components, it's just interesting that's the perspective, and that's the narrative that they're assigning. So, so Jericho and Guevara, fine match. The aftermath of Sammy joining with Don Callis and being part of the Don Callis family makes a lot of sense storyline wise.
I did like it. I've seen a side by side. I'm in that match now, so maybe I'm not even a third of the way through. But I've seen a side by side of the turn at the end, and it's the exact turn Jericho did with Michaels. And Sammy's gear was a nod to the first time Jericho wrestled. There were a lot of little things that I've already caught and seen there that I was like, Jericho's really good at that. He likes the little detail things. So I thought that was pretty cool. But sorry, I cut you off there, Tom.
No, you're good. And then from there you had the AEW International title, which we go back a couple weeks ago when Mox dethroned Orange Cassidy, and we were like, yeah, Mox is about to go and potentially be the new record setter. And then Rey Fenix wins the title. I know you haven't seen this yet, but I'm excited.
Everything I've read is he was not supposed to win the title.
Okay, so here's the crazy part. So I'm going to spoil a little bit of the finish, but
yeah, and I've read about it. So you're
good. So no, I mean clearly Mox did not move his shoulder on the first pinfall attempt, and then the crowd goes, they're audibly upset, and then they run it right back with the same exact spot, and then they count the 3, and then it looks like Mox has a neck injury. But then they come back from the break after, because they go to a commercial, and they're like, he left on his own power. But then there's nothing else following up on it that I recall.
He was concussed. He had a concussion. I haven't seen the 2 spots, but I find it interesting that, clearly, I shouldn't say clearly. That's not fair. You would think Phoenix was aware that Mox hadn't kicked out from that first one, so that, in the back of your head should be like, oh crap, I might have knocked him out. So then you pick him up and drop on his head again.
Well, and there was a spot earlier in the match where Phoenix does a dive off the ramp. I think he might have concussed Mox there early. I don't know. I know he goes right to do kind of like the check on spot. Normally, you'll see a referee jump out of the ring and they kind of clasp the hand of the wrestler, like kind of like if you squeeze my hand, I know you're good. If you don't squeeze my hand, I kind of know we've got a problem. Well, Phoenix actually does that with Moxley. So I wonder if he knew he came off hot and he landed hard. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Again, regardless of that, like why not call an audible in a different way and do a funky finish that then allows Mox to heal, and then you come back and make this a different match? Because there was heat here. Because clearly Blackpool Combat Club had taken Ray Phoenix out of Stadium Stampede, so his desire to come back here and get revenge is palatable, and he clearly got revenge because he dethroned Moxley with the title. It just seems weird.
Well, and I'm curious. Excuse me while I just stumble all over my words there. Depending on if Moxley needs to miss any time, how bad the concussion is, all of those kinds of things. If he's able to work again, and let's be honest, Jon Moxley is going to want to work again 10 minutes after he got concussed because he's Jon Moxley. So if he's able to come back quickly, do they pivot and do a Ray Phoenix international title run, or do they pivot and Mox wins the belt back and then they get back on the road to whatever it was they were planning to do? It'll just be interesting to see. And I think a huge part of that, obviously, is what's Mox's health situation. And is he going to need to miss any time because of that concussion? We do have a comment. Yeah, Annette says Mox was concussed on the dive. He kept wrestling, started to feel bad during the match, and called an audible for Phoenix to win. And then Mox blew the pin, is what it says there from Annette. So thank you, Annette, for some clarification on that. And of course, Annette was very happy with that. Here's the first Fantasy Wrestling League mention of the night, because I've been trying to catch up to her, and I had Mox and she had Phoenix. So yes, and she just said, I'll be happy for a Phoenix title run. Here's to a short run and him losing it right back to Moxley. Sorry, Annette. But yeah, when I saw that, and then I looked to see you at Phoenix, I saw it was you, and I was like, of course, that's what would happen. But now, hey, that works for you. Oops. There we go. Sorry, I clicked something and all of a sudden the screen went different.
Yeah. So the rest of the show, you have the women's title match, Saraya and Toni Storm. I'm actually really digging in the Toni Storm character and persona.
Yeah, I am too. When it started, I didn't think I would, and it's grown on me over the weeks.
Exact same opinion there. And then the main event, MJF and Samoa Joe. On paper, sounds really cool. And the backstory when MJF was an extra NXT and the issues with Joe, I feel like there should have been more emotion for this. And the crowd was good because, again, MJF's a New York guy. It just felt flat. Again, I feel like, in a way, poor Samoa Joe, right? Here's a guy who always seems to be the bridesmaid and never the bride in almost everything that he does. And, I kind of wish he would just not be on AEW and Ring of Honor had a bigger presence and they could just make him a killer in the TV title space, because that might actually give him some more teeth than he has, because he seems like he's gumming it right now.
Phrases I didn't think I'd hear on Two Spot Monkeys today. By the way, Annette corrected me. I read that wrong. Knox blew the pin, the ref.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry. To go back to that. Yeah. No, and I understand what you're saying with Joe, right? And they still try to present him as the killer in the TV title division, but I think it's because, as you said, Ring of Honor doesn't have a larger presence. And just, it feels like they don't build Ring of Honor things with Ring of Honor. They do a little build with AEW and Ring of Honor. It's just weird. I hope that in this new TV deal that they're working towards, if they do get on Max, Max has already announced that there's going to be a live sports streaming section of Max, but it's another $10 a month, which I think is a little bit bunk, but whatever. That's going to have some Major League Baseball, some NBA, and I think NHL content. No announcement of AEW yet, but that would be part of the new deal. It's not part of their current deal, so no shock there. If Ring of Honor streams on Max, I hope they'll put more effort into it than than I feel like they do with Honor Club. I don't watch it, so that's not totally fair, but I do read the results every week. I score them obviously every other week, and it just feels like dark with different letters and some belts. And then they throw on pay-per-views and they throw together these dream matches that in some cases haven't been built at all. And they're usually good pay-per-views when I've ordered them, but it's just weird. Like the building in Ring of Honor is just so weird. But Joe could be a huge part of that if they would just. I feel like he needs to give Ring of Honor to like Jimmy Jacobs or somebody who I know is working there as kind of his right hand. Chris Hero, like let them just book it. You'd be the oversight, you'd be able to look at things and be like, no, you're not going to make, Carly Bravo the champion or whatever. If they had some crazy idea that didn't make sense, nothing against Carly Bravo, but, and they wouldn't do that, but I'm just saying like, he can be the oversight, but like, let them run it with communication so that you're, the idea should be right. It's your developmental, basically. You're building people who eventually then will come over to AEW. It seemed like the Righteous were kind of headed into AEW, around that and things. So you can that should be a little more seamless. But I think Tony Khan's got too much on his plate, frankly. And the guy, we've talked about it before. He's got to set his fandom aside and run a business for many reasons, but also realize when there's just too much and lean on. You've got really smart people in the wrestling business who work for you. Let them run some of it, and then and you keep running AEW, and that's your vision with AEW. Let them kind of run your vision of Ring of Honor. But I think it could be so much more, and I think Joe could be a huge part of that. When he gets into important things in AEW, you're right. He's built up and then beat.
The roster is deep enough too, where you should be able to have like not crossover. Again, and maybe if you have the not crossover, it brings higher value. Like again, like I don't like a good example for me in this space too would be like Powerhouse Hobbs. Like Powerhouse Hobbs, if you literally were like, yo, let's put that dude on Ring of Honor and let's get him back to where he was maybe a year ago. I'm forgetting. I know that there was a time where they rebuilt him really, really strongly. I think it was the TNT title run. And like let him be one of your like spotlights on Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
And don't let him on Rampage, Dynamite, or Collision. Like
right. Yeah, no, I think an interesting and we've done this, I think, once before, about the time Ring of Honor was purchased by AEW, but maybe something we'll have to do if we have a week where we don't have, head-to-head or anything to really specific to sink our teeth into would be to, like, build a Ring of Honor roster of 10 or 15 or even 20 people from AEW that maybe aren't getting utilized well. Keith Lee, I think, would be a really good person over there.
It seems like that might be coming up because there was a backstage thing, I think it was on Rampage last week, with the new evolving of Shane Taylor Promotions.
Yes.
And it's Shane Taylor and Lee Moriarty now. And then there was interaction with Keith Lee, which was pretty sweet.
Yeah, and they're really bad. We didn't edit that right, and now the guy did the clapper thing in front of the
So
camera.
here's the thing. That's happened a couple of times. I think there's something to that.
No.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
The first time was a mistake. They intentionally did it with Ricky Starks a little later for that exact reason, to make people be like, oh, okay, they meant to do that the first time. No, they totally screwed it up the first time.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. See, I thought there was going to be something. I thought they were going to try to tell us a story using.
Which, maybe they can. Maybe they can now turn it. Why not? Like, make chicken salad out of chicken, whatever. Yeah, the first time was totally mistaken. Then they added in the Ricky Starks one, and Starks looking at him and saying something, get off camera or whatever. Nice pivot if that is truly what happened, the way that I read it. Nice pivot by AEW to be like, oh crap, that didn't. Let's try to make something out of that. I got to give him a little bit of credit. Ricky Starks has the charisma of, a million people. So.
Yeah, and then just the whole Adam Cole, MJF, Roderick Strong, Ring of Honor tag title situation. I mean, I think we're headed to Better Than You, Baby versus the Kingdom. And then Roddy's going to somehow, some way, unintentionally cost them the titles. And then it creates more issues between him and Cole.
Yeah.
Again, it just doesn't feel authentic.
Get Cole Roddy at Wrestle Dream?
Well, no. So, here's the thing. So there's
right. Never mind.
The title match is happening at Wrestle Dream, which again, I don't know. I did not look at spoilers, so I don't know what happens tonight. Probably Full Gear.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. That's right. The Ring of Honor tag title match at Wrestle Dream. interesting in that that also means most likely MJF not defending the AEW World Title at Wrestle Dream. Interesting. Maybe which to me says, well, it's got to be Danielson and Sabre in the main event. Then I would think.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with. I'm totally okay with. I think at least they hinted strongly last week that we would be getting maybe Takeshita Ibushi at Wrestle Dream. I think that would be interesting to see personally, because I don't think Ibushi has looked that great since he's had the couple of matches in AEW. So a singles match I think will be interesting. Takeshita I think he's very quickly become one of my favorites over the last, say, year. So I love that they're featuring him, and I think he's one of the best right now, and is going to be a cornerstone of that company, should be a cornerstone of that company for a long time. I think Takeshita's future world champ if they wanted to be. So anyways, and we'll break out Wrestle Dream. Well, we'll talk about it post Wrestle Dream, because next week we won't be able to record. We will have our picks for Wrestle Dream and No Mercy on our Twitter. See if I can extend my lead on Tom on those picks. I'd have to look over the cards to even know what the world I'd be doing at this point. And of course, Wrestle Dream I think only has about 4 or 5 matches announced, because why would AEW announce more than that a week out? Although, to be fair, Fastlane is the next weekend, I believe, for WWE, and they have announced exactly 0 matches for Fastlane so far, with 2 weeks to go. Why?
Yeah. Well, I know we're going to be running up on time. I just want to really quick. Tomorrow, Collision, going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited. I'm super thankful that in the absence of CM Punk, Bryan Danielson has become now the face of Collision, or the star of Collision.
I hate to say it, but I kind of like it better because I'm a bigger Danielson fan than I was a Punk fan. I love Punk, don't get me wrong, but I'm a bigger Danielson fan.
Yeah. To get a Texas death match tomorrow night between him and Ricky Starks, that's been a really fun feud and fun issue. FTR defending the titles against the Workhorsemen. Sad for the Workhorsemen when people were chanting, "Who are you?" last week. You're taping Ring of Honor before that. Why the heck did you not have them in a match on Ring of Honor to introduce them to the crowd so that way that didn't happen? Oh my gosh, what a fart in church.
And a little bit, exactly. I mean, the booking there, and you're going to have them come out and answer the open challenge, like feature them somewhere and build them better, because they're a good tag team. They're a really good tag team.
Yeah. No, that's gonna be a good match tomorrow. I don't even if it's the same amount of time that we got with the Iron Savages last week. I think it's still going to be really, really good. Andrade versus Jay White. That's
really good.
On paper, amazing. There's other things too, but those are the 3 that are coming to mind right now. Oh yeah. Rob Van Dam returns to his home state, and he's going to be in ring. So. Yep. Who will RVD flatten like a pancake tomorrow night?
RVD. Oh, and the triple threat TNT title match. Yep.
Darby
Allin, Christian Cage, and Luchasaurus. And we talked about this, I believe, just before we clicked record. I mean, Christian Cage is winning the title tomorrow night, officially winning the title tomorrow night. I mean, it's got to be right. So we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but boy, the minute I heard, because I've seen that interview on Dynamite, the minute I heard it, and he even said something, and Luchasaurus kind of turned and looked at him real quick. So like, they've had these little hints along the way, like the Luchasaurus kind of knows what's going on. And at some point down the road, there's the explosion that will happen. Luchasaurus chokeslams Christian Cage, into the depths of hell. But I don't think we're getting that set tomorrow. I mean, there might be some dissension tomorrow, but I don't think we're quite to the breakup by any means of that team yet. Well, we've got about 10-ish minutes, maybe a couple more than that left. So fair warning for anybody who's not a football fan. Thank you for listening. Come back and see us in a couple of weeks. We're going to turn into a football podcast here for a couple of minutes. So I got to start. I'm sorry, Tom. The NFL season has been upon us for a couple of weeks. We're 2 weeks and 1 game in after last night's San Francisco-New York game. My Bears are 0-2. And you had them in the playoffs in your simulation of the season. And if I had to guess, and I don't know if you have a record of what you clicked when for who was winning what, but I would assume you had them starting 2-0 before heading to Kansas City this weekend, probably beating both Green Bay and Tampa Bay.
I probably did. Yeah.
Right.
I was very much as I don't like Justin Fields being an Ohio State Buckeye, I was very much on this is Justin Fields is about to become an MVP caliber candidate right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And right now he looks like a dumpster fire candidate. I don't understand. So mini rant. I don't understand how you can have 7 different starters on defense. You can have a revamped offensive line, which unfortunately we just lost our left tackle now for at least 4 games, and it sounds like maybe the year, which great. Awesome. You brought in DJ Moore. It's another year in the system for everybody else, all of those things. And it's the same beeping team. I'm trying not to have to mark the explicit lyrics thing when I put this podcast up. It is the same blimping team that we had last year. They can't move the ball. They can't stop anybody on defense. Tom, I don't know if you're a betting man at this point in your life, but whatever the props are on Patrick Mahomes, take the over on every single one of them this week, because he may set NFL records on Sunday. I told Katie, my wife, I have the NFL Sunday ticket. I think I've mentioned that before, so I'm able to see all the Bears games this year. Partially spent that money because I expected, like you did, that it was going to be a better season. Maybe not a Super Bowl season, nothing like that. I mean, I didn't have crazy aspirations, but a better season, more fun. Watch the development of Justin Fields. They've got 2 number 1 picks next year. They've got a ton of cap room. Like, see where this team is headed. And I said, the first 2 weeks I've sat down and watched the game with the expectation that they had at least a good chance to win those games. And they were in the game last week. They were down 3. They had the ball. They called the 9,473rd bubble screen that they've thrown in 2 games. Even Levante David and Shaq Barrett from the Buccaneers have come out and said they lined up the exact same way they had all game. We knew it was a bubble screen. Okay, that's an indictment of coaching right there. Like, call different plays, have different looks. Like, if you line up the same way and run the same play, those are smart people on the other side. They also have coaches who are watching that, who are screaming into their headset, bubble screen, bubble screen, bubble screen, because everybody in the stadium knows what you're doing. And so Shaq Barrett made a really nice catch. He reached back, kind of tipped the ball to himself, and falls in the end zone for a pick 6. Shaq Barrett's a great story. Unfortunately lost his daughter over the offseason and things. So, I'm happy for him. Obviously, I'm not happy he had a pick 6 against the Bears. I'm happy for him as a human and as a guy. You can't, but how? At least, though, this week, 3:30, I'm going to sit down on Sunday afternoon, and I'm going to watch my Bears play Kansas City, and I know they are getting taken to the woodshed. So at least I'm sitting down and knowing that's going to happen. Now watch. They lost to Green Bay and Tampa Bay, and they're going to go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. Watch. They're just going to do something stupid like that. I am so disgusted with my team right now. And now Fields calls out coaching earlier in the week and then has to backtrack because I have a sneaky hunch he got called in and chewed out, which he should. That stuff shouldn't come out. I understand that. But I also understand he's a human being. And if he feels like he's being restricted from what he's allowed to be able to do as a player, and frankly, the tape kind of shows it, like they're clearly trying to make him a pocket passer. Why? Would you do that with Mike Vick? Would you do that with Lamar Jackson? No, you wouldn't. They're not, and this is not a shot at your quarterback from Detroit at all. They're not Jared Goff. Like, Goff is not a super mobile quarterback. He can get out of the way if he has to, but he is a pocket passer. He wants to stand and chuck the ball. Matthew Stafford, those kinds of guys, and I don't mean to pick on another line. I'm just trying, those are the 2 that pop into my head. That's not Justin Fields' game. Get him moving. Let him use his legs and make something happen and let DJ Moore get open and hit him. Why can you and I coach this team, but nobody who's being paid hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars can figure it out? End of rant. How are you feeling about your Lions, Tom?
Yeah, so I'm just upset with the injury bug. I'm not mad at the Lions. I really wish they would have pulled it off last week at home opener against Seattle. Should have won that game. Shouldn't have lost it, which, again, I said the same thing in 2 different ways. Thanks for listening. Yeah, I'm not worried about the Lions. I'm a little concerned just because of injuries. Losing David Montgomery for a few weeks, and when he's been a stalwart, losing C.J. Gardner-Johnson for potentially the whole season, likely the whole season. We've got depth at safety, but I think Gardner-Johnson was not just a great football player, but an emotional motivator too. So to lose that on the defense will be tough. The defense has not met my expectations. I do think we're about to destroy the world of Desmond Ridder on Sunday, and I can't wait for that. So That'll be a good bounce back game. And then we go to Green Bay on Thursday night, on a short week. So again, health is going to be key for the Lions. Again, 17 game season, long way to go. I wish we were 2-0, not 1-1, but I'm not worried. I'm definitely. You're not talking me off the ledge, Jim, but I think I'd talk you off the ledge, and I'm sorry. And I want to say this: at least you do get to watch the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday because they are fun to watch.
They are, and this feels like a get right game for them. Like I feel like the first 2 weeks the Chiefs haven't been quite the Chiefs. They got beat by Detroit, and it's not to say that Detroit deserves all the credit in the world for that win. So I'm not trying to diminish them. They did get a win. I can't remember who they beat last week, but they got their win back, and got on track.
Jacksonville, and it didn't appear to be easy, at least by the score.
Right, and Jacksonville's a tough team. They're a good team this year too. But now the only thing that could happen is if, and I don't think this will happen with a Patrick Mahomes led and an Andy Reid coach team, is if they look past the Bears, because the Bears have looked so putrid for 2 weeks, and just think, oh yeah, this is in the bag. Now, the only reason I would be scared to take those overs that I joked about with Patrick Mahomes, and of course you're starting Patrick Mahomes if you have him on your fantasy team, but it's totally possible that it's 35-0 at half, and Chad Henne comes in. I think Henne's still the backup there.
I don't think he is, because I don't know if you've seen the Subway commercial. Like the Subway commercial, like there's a Patrick Mahomes, and then Henne's behind him, and he's like, even your former backup, like, and it says former backup. Like they're very intentional. I think Henne might have retired. I don't know for sure.
I mean, he's got 62. So,
Michigan guy, go blue. Yeah. So I don't know.
No, Blaine Gabbert is the backup now in Kansas City. So it might be a week in your daily fantasy league to take a Blaine Gabbert runner because he might play the whole second half against Chicago. My goodness. My fear is the Bears made Jordan Love and Baker Mayfield look like world beaters. And I don't think either one of those gentlemen are. I'm not saying they're just awful quarterbacks. I think Jordan Love is fine. And Baker is Baker. I mean, right? Yeah. Annette just said, Henne is retired. So Blaine Gabbert, now the backup there in Kansas City. But, they made Jordan Love and Baker Mayfield look really good. Now they're going up against arguably the best quarterback in football. And depending on how you want to look at that, I mean, there's certainly the Josh Allens and the Jalen Hurts and other folks that you can put into that conversation, and you're not wrong at all. But Mahomes is in that conversation, no question about it. And for me, if I had to pick one quarterback to win me one game for whatever reason, it'd be Patrick Mahomes right now. So now they're facing a quarterback who, oh my goodness, start all your Chiefs. If you got Sky Moore sitting on your bench, throw him in that lineup this week because he might catch 2 or 3. You never know. I believe I'll have to double check because I'm going to need to go check my quarterback situation in our G20 league, which somehow I won both my games last week by the grace of God, because I still don't feel like that team. I had all these draft picks, and I still don't feel like I did anything right. Here's
the thing: you went from the lowest scoring team in the league on week 1 to one of the highest scoring teams in the league on week 2. So it just shows that everybody stepped up and played well for you. Conversely, in that league, we have a thing where you have to score not the lowest to be in part of an eliminator pool. I was the lowest scoring team in week 2, so that really sucks.
Right. So out of our 20 teams, for those on YouTube, you're looking at the 2 guys who are eliminated after 2 weeks because I was the lowest scoring in week 1. So, and I made the smarter decision last week of, even though he only played a half, starting Anthony Richardson instead of Dak Prescott. So that worked out pretty well. And, of course, I got to go back to Dak this week because it looks like Richardson's out with that concussion. But that's okay. Dallas looks like world beaters right now, too. Not necessarily because of Dak by any means. That defense is tough. Micah Parsons might be the best player in football right now. And it may not be close. I'm not sure. So we'll see. But I love football. And I love bitching about it, excuse my French, and yelling about my fantasy teams and all of that. We played in week 1 in G20, and you cleaned my clock. I haven't looked. We haven't played in the Greg League, as it were, yet. I don't believe so. That'll be fun when we get to match up there as well. So It's fun. As much as I feel like my blood pressure goes up for 4 months when I'm watching my Bears. Sunday, like I said, unless they do something silly and actually give me hope, I'm not starting the game with hope. It's really going to be started with like, how bad's this going to get? Like, are they going to fire Matt Eberflus at halftime? Because it's holy smokes. I will say, so I'm in a survival pool. It was $5 to get in. There's like 10 of us, so it's like $50. Where you pick one team to win each week. I picked Washington week 1 to beat Arizona. They gave me a scare, but got it done. I picked Dallas last week against the Jets, so I was good there. I absolutely picked Kansas City this week because I think that is the most locked-in game of the week for who should win. So, well, we're running up against our time. We just wanted to have a little fun and chat about our teams. And in a couple of weeks, I hope I can come back and say I feel better about the Bears. Justin Fields says he's going to play more free and more open this week. We'll see what that looks like. They might as well cut the kid loose. Let's see what we got. Because here's the thing. The Bears have 2 number 1 picks next year. If he's not the guy, it's probably going to be a high pick for the Bears, and it looks like Carolina's pick is going to be pretty high. So you can get yourself a quarterback, or even if you want to go up and get Caleb Williams, you've got 2 number 1s, and if they're both high, you can trade them to whoever's number 1 and go get him if you want. So if it's not Justin Fields, this is the time to figure it out because you have a chance to draft your next guy. There are definitely things about Justin Fields that I think need to improve. I bought Fanatics had a Justin Fields Funko Pop. I bought it. I have a Justin Fields jersey. I am a Justin Fields guy, but I got to admit, after 2 weeks this season, something's got to change. He's got to figure it out, and it might be coaching. I understand. So cut the reins loose on the kid. Let's see what he's got, and if it's not him, move on. And it's not Tyler Pagent. Everybody just stop. He had a nice preseason. How many people in the NFL, Tom, do you remember who have had a nice preseason and never amounted to crap in the league? I mean, it's preseason, and when they're playing 3rd and 4th stringers, there's a reason. So, anyways, that's my preseason rant. Tom, anything else before we take off for fun?
Nope, it's all good. I love it. I appreciate it. I think that this might have been a little bit of therapeutic for you. Like, I'm sure this
I'm breathing better. I'm breathing better.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Well, again, we won't be able to record next week. We tried. We looked at our calendar and tried to figure out a way to snag it in somewhere, and it just isn't lining up at all for the 2 of us. So we won't be able to record next week. We'll have our picks on our Twitter. Annette said, "Glad you're not taking this Bear thing personally." Boy, I sure sound like I am, though, aren't I? Sounds like I'm, a part owner of the Bears, and the funny part is I'm actually a part owner of the Packers. So, yeah. But anyways, I've told that story before, and I'm sure it'll come up again in the future. But yeah, I know. I talk about the Bears like I have anything to do with them. Katie jokes that I yell at the TV like they can hear me, and somehow I'm going to change what's happening.
But they can hear you.
They can. Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. I'm glad you understand. Your wife probably wonders the same thing when you're watching Lions or Tigers games or Michigan. Yeah. I'll look at the TV and go, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Do you think they can hear you?" Yes, I do, actually. There's a microphone on the TV. I don't know if you've seen it.
Right into Eberflus's headset.
Right. I'm talking to him. If he'd start listening to me, he would do much better. So, yeah, anyways, we will be back in a couple of weeks to talk about all sorts of fun stuff with Wrestle Dream and No Mercy, Fallout and other things that happen because, geez, it seems like every week there's something.
Fast Lane's coming up too. Gosh, I mean,
next week. So I think we'll be doing head-to-head picks for Fastlane, assuming WWE decides to not make it a Mystery Vortex show, which currently it kind of seems like that's where they're headed. So why book anything ahead of time, guys? I'll make the call here. Seth Rollins, Shinsuke Nakamura happens at Fastlane. That seems likely. All righty. Well, everybody have a great week. Enjoy yourselves, and we'll be back with you in a couple of weeks here on Two Spot Monkeys Live.